Welcome to the channel mixer and thank you for checking this video out. Not a lot of people want to know how to work with the channel mixer, and that's a shame because it is possibly the most powerful tool Photoshop has in making color enhancements to an image on the one hand, and on the other hand, the one least frequently used. So this is really a shame. So again, good for you getting into the channel mixer here. Now there's a bit of a learning curve on the channel mixer, but it's really interesting how this thing works, and a couple of things to really get your head around on this. Here we go. Now this is first of all an RGB image. The red, the green, and the blue. You can tell it's an RGB image by it'll say that on the image name up in the tab. RGB. I've opened up this little guy here called the info panel. You can find that on the right hand side of your interface. And what this is going to do is give us values for RGB. How intense, or what are the levels of the red, the green, and the blue in different parts of our image? And also CMYK, what are the values in there? Cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And what is the X and Y value, the X value of our cursor and the Y value? All we really want to look at is RGB. That's all we're going to be concerned about, the red channel, the green channel, and the blue channel. Now, I already have numbers listed in my image for these guys right here. And as you can see, now when I come off the image, these numbers disappear. This is where I'm going to be pointing you when I say look at your RGB values, look over here. So there we have, as confirmation of the numbers that I have, 150, 30, 30, and as you can read. Forget the CMYK and the XY values. Okay, let's begin here. I'm going to activate the channel mixer. How do you get the channel mixer? Click on here, add new fill or adjustment layer, and channel mixer. Okay. Here we are. Now that I've opened the channel mixer, what you're going to see in the info panel are two numbers. Now you see two numbers over there. For red, you see 150, 150. What that tells you is the first 150 is where we are right now. The second number is going to show you where we are after we make an adjustment to the color with the channel mixer or any other tool for that matter. Okay, so that's like a before and after, if you will. Here we go. I am going to put this right in the red channel. All RGB images are a combination of red, green, and blue to produce all the different millions of colors that you will see in an image. We're in the red channel right now, which means any adjustment I make on these sliders is going to adjust only red pixels, only the red values. So if I, again, now throughout this tutorial, there are going to be some things I'm going to be repeating over and over and over, and it's really important because there are some tricky things about this channel mixer. Once you get comfortable with them, it will be your go-to tool to make color enhancements on your images without question. But there's a tricky part to get over here. So finish off that margarita and settle on in. Here we go. We are in the red channel. So all adjustments I make down here on any one of these four sliders actually will adjust the values of the red only. So why do I have a red, a green, and a blue down here if I'm going to be adjusting only red pixels? What this area is concerned with is the different areas of your image. In my simplified image over here, I have an area that's mostly red, an area that's mostly green, and an area that's mostly blue. That's what this is about. So let's keep this in mind. When you're in the red output channel, you are affecting only the red values, but how they are affected in the mostly reddish area of your image, the mostly greenish, or the mostly bluish area of your image. So let's go ahead and adjust the red pixels only in the reddish area of the image and see what happens. As you can see, what's happening is, and forget that part off to the left by the info panel, forget that part. That is going to change too, but you know, okay, we're only looking at RGB. So the red changes the most. Now the green and the blue, I don't know if you can see it on your monitor, they do change a little bit, but not as much. And again, please ignore this part over here. That's just to try to make a blank area and center the image. Okay, let's look what happened. Look at the info panel. The red went from 150, ramped it all the way up to 255. 255 is the maximum value on this scale, the most iridescent radioactive. It goes from 0 to 255. So it went up by, what, 105, didn't it? It went up from 150 to 255. The G and the B, the green and the blue, they did not change at all. Now do know that the red value changed a little bit in the green also, but it only went up from 30 to 60. In the green, it changed, but not much. It only went up by 30. Everything else exactly the same. And the red went up over here in the blue area, but not very much. Now the reason it did not go up very much over here is because this is overwhelmed by blue and there's only a little bit of red. So when I drag my red slider up to affect the red values all the way as far as I can go, you're not starting with much red to begin with, and it's overwhelmed by blue, so you're only going to see a small change, but you will see somewhat of a change. Here's a little question for you. I have the red output channel selected. That means I'm working on red pixels. Look in this image here. What parts of your image do you see red? And before you answer, the answer actually is everywhere. There is red everywhere in this image, but not much here and not much here. Very little, in fact. Check this one out. Let's just stay with the simple, the red and the red. Now let's switch to green. Okay, so I'm going to be affecting the green pixels only. So I'm going to be affecting only these values. So in the green channel, let's do green on green. Just previously we did red on red. Let's do green on green. So I'm going to affect the green pixels only in the green area here. And the green area is here. There's a tremendous amount of green in there. So I should see a big change in the green, and I do. Let's see what happened to the values. The green went from 150 to 255. It absolutely skyrocketed over there. How about the other areas? Not much of a change. It went up by 30 over there, 30 to 60, and it went up by 150 to went up from 30 to 60 over there also, with the red and the blue values staying the same. Now let's try blue in blue. I want to affect the blue pixels in the blue area, which is starting at 150. So I'm going to go to the blue area and ramp up the blue pixels. And the blue went from 150 again to 255. A change of what, 105? Yeah. Over here in the middle column, it went up by 30, and in the left-hand column, the blues went up by 30 also. Not so much. Now let's get to the real interesting part. Let's go back to red here. And what I want to do is affect the red pixels, which again, where are the red pixels? Everywhere. They're everywhere in the whole image, but they're primarily over here. We already did the red on red, and we found that there's a huge change in the red column right over there. Well, what happens if I want to change the red pixels in the green area? Let's go ahead and do that. Let's just ramp that guy all the way up, and you see a real big change in the green area and a smaller change in the red and blue areas. Why? Because it's loaded with green. It's already starting at 150. So keep in mind what we're doing again. We're working on only the red values, but now we want to look at that middle column of our image, the green area in our image. And there we go. The red went up to 255. Remember, we're in the red channel, so we're affecting only the red values. The red went up only by 60 over here on the left column, and it went up by, coincidentally, 60 on the right column, the blue column also. How about the blue? Again, these are the areas of your image. So this is the bluish area of the image, which is primarily this, but there's also a little bit of blue in here and a little bit of blue in here. The reason I keep going over this is that when we work with a real image, which is coming up real shortly now, you're going to see as you work with your channel mixer, most parts of your image changing at the same time. So don't think this is 100% exclusive. It will be very rare to open an image in Photoshop where you can find an area that is like 255 red and 0 green and 0 blue. That is just not ever going to happen. Okay, so we are going to affect the red pixels now, but only in the blue area, so I should see the biggest change in my image in the blue area, and I do. The red and green are changing also, but mostly it's the blue area. Why? Because that's where most of the blue is. And again, you can see the red goes up by 255. I'm changing only the red pixels. Everything else stays the same. Little bit of a change there, little bit of a change there. Why? Because there's not much blue. There's only a little bit of blue. The same will be true for all the other channels. Green, let's go through this one quickly now. I'm going to change only the green pixels now, which will be the center row here. And I'm going to change them in the red area. What's going to happen? How big of a change will there be in here when I change the green pixels in the red area? I don't know, it's pretty big. Changing the green pixels, the greens went up to 255. Why? Because there's a tremendous amount of red over here. The greens only went up from 150 to 210. That only went up by 60. Why? There's not a lot of red here. This is not a red area, really. And this is not a real big red area. So that's the real big red area. So you see the biggest change in the green, which is what I'm changing here. We did the green on green already, and now we're going to change the greens in the blue area. The blue, there's a tremendous amount of blue in there, so I'm expecting some big changes here, and there are. The biggest change is in the blue area. The green went up from 30 to 255, ramped it up. Why? Because I'm in the blue area, and this is blue. This is mostly blue, so you're going to see the biggest change there. Cool. This last slider over here, simply, I'm in my green channel. What this will do is it will increase the value of the greens in your entire image, throughout your entire image. So everything goes up, and the green will be 255 across the board. Likewise, you can drop the green all the way down to 0. This one, honestly, I never work with. Never. You can double click on a number and then type in any number you want to change them manually. Cool. Now let's do some real stuff over here with a real image. And here's the deal. Now we're going to have one additional layer of learning for the channel mixer, and that is in working with the color wheel. Your primary colors in light are red, green, and blue, and this is an RGB image, red, green, and blue. What's important to know now is that in an image, if I take away green, if I lower green values, as I can with my sliders, I'm going to produce a magenta effect. So these are opposite colors, or what's called complementary colors on the color wheel. If I remove red from this image, I'm going to be producing this kind of cyan color, and if I remove blue, I'm going to be producing yellow. Obviously, if I add blue, well, I'm simply going to be adding blue. So this is going to be important. The first thing I want to do on the channel mixer is I want to make these rays here, these sunlight rays, a little bit more yellow. So if I want to make them yellow, now follow along here, if I want to make them yellow, I have to pull down the blue. Let's get to the channel mixer. There it is. Forget all this stuff up here. This is just the color wheel, and that's sort of the background color thing. Now that darn thing is going to change, isn't it? That thing's going to change color as I work with the channel mixer. Never mind, just ignore that part. Stay on the channel mixer here. So what do I want to do? I want to change blue pixels, and I want to remove them, so I need to go to the blue channel. Now, what area of my image am I going to work in? Let's take a look. Look at the info panel here as I look at the rays. It's mostly red, 207 and then lower numbers. If I come over here, it's 162 and lower numbers. Even if I come in here in kind of a shadow area, red is still the highest number. So I have to consider this to be a red area of my image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the blue pixels from the blue output channel, and I'm going to reduce them in the red area. That's the red area. Let's drag it down a little bit, and it turns yellow. Now, as with all changes in Photoshop, be very slight, be very, very slight, be very, very subtle with your changes. It's very tempting to ramp them up and go, wow, that is gorgeous. And then you look at it an hour later and want to throw up. So be really, really careful with this. I'm going to bring it down just a tiny, tiny bit, minus 15 only. And there, I've just made the rays yellow. Now, I do like these greens in here. There's some nice greens in here. There's some nice greens in here. I might want to add greens, which means I need to select the green channel, and I want to add them to the green areas of my image. So now just ramp that up. Let's go all the way and make it radioactive. Now, what we were saying before, it's going to change everything in your image. Remember, there were a lot of greens in those sun rays? So it's going to bring green into the sun rays also. I'm not sure I like that too much. What I might do is come up with this just a little bit, and I might come down in the red areas, which are theoretically the rays. I might bring the green down a little bit to try to get my yellow back a little bit. There we go. Okay, good. One other thing about the channel mixer that we may as well go over right now, you'll see this percent number right here, 96%. Theoretically, you want this number to be 100%. This is an addition of the red, green, and blue. Add up all of these, you get plus 96. Again, theoretically, you're looking at 100%. You want 100%. Put it anywhere you want that makes your image pleasing to you. It doesn't matter where it is. But do know that pretty much, unless you want some really radical effect, if you get much above 100, your colors are going to get so saturated, it's going to look pretty horrible, unless you're going for a horrible saturated look. Okay? Think of it like this. When you open any image in Photoshop, you're going to have a certain number of green, a certain amount of green and red and blue. Photoshop considers that to be 100%. So if you start taking away and this number starts getting less, you're going to have less green in your image than you started with. And if you get up over 100%, you're going to have more green in your image than you started with. And it can start really skewing the color and putting in color casts and making it look, again, awful. So in the beginning, at least, try to stay close to your 100% to make real good, pleasing images. And then play with it and break the rules if you want to later. Okay, now let's do something else. We've worked with blue. We went into the blue channel to reduce blue pixels in the reddish area to turn it the opposite color, which is yellow. We've just worked with green by adding green to the green areas. And then we found that our rays got a little bit too green, so this is still a reddish area. We pulled the greens down in the red area to bring back the yellow. And what else can we do? One other thing we might do is, what if we throw some magenta into like a shadow area? Well, to get magenta, you need to reduce the green. But the shadow areas are mostly in the blue. So this is going to be a little bit tricky here because I'm looking at the info panel right now. What I would like to do is see an area where the blue number is the highest. There's one right there. Blue is 70 and the other numbers are lower. So if I reduce the green in the blue area, I will produce magenta, but this is going to be tricky and it might ruin a lot of stuff, but let's see what happens. I'll pull it way down. and there's the magenta. For freak value, I kind of like this a lot, but I want to be, again, very, very, very subtle. I just want to put in the slightest hint of magenta, just the slightest hint, and I'm going to leave it right there. Okay, I'm pretty much done with this image. There's only one other thing I want to do, because overall it's looking a little bit dark as I've made my color changes. What I'd like to do is kind of play around and get a little bit more specific with the brightness of the colors. And I'll come right here to curves. Let's just do a real quickie in here. Here's the darker area. Now I'm not working with color anymore in the channel mixer. This is just a real quick and dirty fix. Here are the darker values of my pixels, and here are the brighter values of my pixels. So what I'm going to do is put in a bit of a S-curve right in here to bring up the brightness a little bit. These are the darkest of the darks are okay, but the little bit of the lighter darkers, if you will, I want to click and put a point there, maybe come up a little bit there. Not bad. I kind of like the brightness value of that a little bit better. Okay, good. Guys, we are done. We are done. And that is the after. That's the before. That's the after. I hope I didn't overcook it with the magenta too much, but that's the before. By and large, I like the after better. Thanks again for watching, guys. Good luck with that. Practice that immediately. Open up Photoshop right now and practice with the channel mixer. As I said, it will be your go-to tool to make color enhancements. Hands down, it's the best tool. Thanks for watching as always, and we'll see you next time.